park their car, a walkable San Francisco location.
So, you know
Very quiet street.
what Andrew and I were talking about was, you might have more expertise in this, we didn't understand, in San Francisco, all the grades and appreciation, right?
Right.
If you look at the net present value of your cash flows coming in.
It makes no sense.
Right.
Right.
So what we're trying to understand is, why is this stuff appreciated? Because we would have thought the appreciation is pretty much directly proportional to your expected cash flow.
That's what most markets look like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you may end up, I mean, quite frankly, to be honest with you, you may end up deciding to buy investment property anywhere else and experience a much better market. Even across the bridge in Oakland or Richmond or something. You'll find the cap rates are much higher, the growth rate multiplier is much lower. The typical client here, you have a lot of overseas, Chinese and Russian especially, but people come over here with large amounts of cash.
Sure.
They need to put somewhere, and they trust real estate.
So you're saying it's kind of like a way to launder money.
In some cases. Another way is you move up, you 1031 exchange. You know,
Right.
I have clients, we sell a 2 or 3 unit building, they wait until it appreciates a certain amount, and then they sell it, and they take that money and they buy a bigger, better building, or in a better neighborhood, the same size building, and they continue to increase, because the idea is you tax defer your gains over your lifetime,
Right.
and then at the end, you hopefully have a building that you can either move into.
Or you can sell and retire and you pay the tax on it.
Yeah.
So basically it's a larger 401k than a 401k.
And those are the two biggest groups, aside from TIC, which we're not talking about because that's different. Tenant occupied, the TIC would be very difficult to do here.
Okay.
So, so for the people just buying as investors, those are like the two typical profiles. Sometimes it's multifamilies, sometimes it's individual wealthy people, but it's not the huge, crazy market like residential is, where there's a lot more. I mean, even though it's expensive, there's still a lot of people that afford to buy. Surprisingly, every month I'm surprised. Where does all this lovely money come from? But stuff does sell. It's a much more rational market. I think we discussed. There's not overbidding and multiple offers and all that kind of stuff. It's just much more brain decision, and so there's much more opportunity to negotiate in most cases. Now, if there's a trophy building, this is not a trophy building. This is a nice building on a nice street. Trophy building, there can be craziness. There was one on Guerrero and 22nd. It's right on the corner, amazing views, fabulous slabs, and people went nuts for it. That one on 15th Street in Church, not exactly a trophy building, but because it was
I think it was closer to trophy than this.
Yeah, because it has magnificent scale. That was bought by a single developer. That's the other possible person to buy something. But he probably wouldn't buy this because of all the buyout costs for tenants. This doesn't have innate architectural charm that would make you think it would sell quickly. It's easy to rent this.
Oh, you think the person that gave the highest offer was the developer?
It wasn't the highest offer.
Okay. The most attractive offer.
Right.
Yeah.
He was the only offer for the whole building with no contingencies.
Okay.
And that's the way that a developer who has a bunch of cash down can get a place cheaper.
Right.
So I wrote an offer with clients, it turns out. At the very last minute, they referred to me from some people for the middle unit. Basically, I did it as a favor because, frankly, I didn't think they had a chance in hell. We didn't have time. They came to me like 2 days before the offer date and said,
there's no time.
we can't get together a TIC group. So she got 4 offers for the top unit. She got 2 offers for the middle unit. She got 1 offer for the lower unit. She could have taken the highest offer and put together a TIC group and see if they worked, if it gelled.
Which may or may not work, or she could take the whole entire
Or she could take the whole building
offer.
for about $100,000 less, she told me, was total. So I would assume the building would sell for like 1.8 or something like that for TIC partners. So I'll be curious to see what it sells for. But she said the seller decided to take less money. Sure thing though. Not one contingency, no inspections, no loan, nothing. Quick close of escrow. Take it off the seller's hand and they can move on. So that's, I mean, if I were the seller, I probably would do the same thing actually. It depends on how strapped I was for cash, I suppose. You know. So that kind of building, that's what wow kind of building. I bet we'll see that in the market in the springtime, all dolled up as individual TICs, totally vacant, but a developer has gone and fixed, and they're going to try to flip it as individual units for sale, because there'll be no more tenants there. You wouldn't buy that to rent that place, it's a dump. Not this current condition, I think, you know. So I'll be curious. I have it printed in I have a little monitoring file, and so I keep a file of places that are of interest to see what they eventually close for. And so that kind of place can occasionally excite interest, because you get a little competition going. So I'm sure it sold for over asking, but probably not crazy over asking.
You know, I would have thought that the market to sell that place to developers intent on condo-wise in the building is pretty limited in the sense that there's no parking, right? So if you're I would have thought, I'm totally wrong, I would have thought that if you're in the hunt for an apartment building, you don't have parking, fine, you're going to deal with it. But if you're buying a condo, you probably have a nicer car. You have more equity, you're more established.
It costs you money, for sure.
Yeah.
$75,000 a unit less without a parking space. But a good developer, I mean, it's a thin profit margin, even if you're an expert at this, I mean, you can lose your shirt in one
Sure.
bad deal, right? So these guys come in and they do all their calculations. Most of them have their own kind of crews or contacts. Whatever he paid for it, he thinks he can flip it and make money, which I wouldn't do. I believe in real estate as an investment, but a flip over short term with all that investment, and God knows what you're going to find when you open up the
You
wall.
got more things that can go wrong.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have those deep pockets that I can just say, oh, I messed up. Well, no big deal. So I lost a few $100,000. I would die, I would have a stroke and hit the floor. You know?
Sure.
But with what money I have, I tend to invest very cautiously. But I like real estate, so but I like to invest in things that already have parking, good foundation, good electrical and plumbing. I don't want to do that kind of stuff. I don't mind doing superficial renovation things. I mean, why not? It feels
Drywall kitchens, that's all.
yeah, it's fun.
Easy, yeah.
It's like creative, and then you get to see people react, and you get to make more money. You know.
So out of curiosity, because Andrew and I were looking at the cash flows and looking at net present value of cash flows over a 30-year period, and then we're looking at, okay, let's say you park money and a good spread of mutual funds, right asset allocation, blah, blah, blah. You take tax into account, right, so all your rental income is taxed at 45% because it's federal and state, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you look at, okay, well, you have a whole bunch of mutual funds, you have long-term capital distributions versus short-term capital distributions, so on and so forth. So the NPV is approximately the same if you take appreciation and you say appreciation is 5% in San Francisco over a 30-year period. Then it's approximately the same whether you park $100,000 or $1 million or whatever in real estate versus if you do it in the stock market.
Right.
So what we're wondering is the whole point of using rental property here in San Francisco not only the 401k, or I should say the tax-deferred aspect, but also just diversification in terms of, I don't want to put everything in equity, so I'm just going to put it in real estate as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's people who are very simple, even if they have a lot of money. They're very simple, and they understand real estate is concrete. They collect a check, you get to live here, that appeals to them. And there's some really simple, either family or single people that own buildings or a few buildings, and you'd be surprised, people with tons of money on paper who walk down the street, you almost think they're bag people. You know what I mean? Like they're not flashy, they're not successful, they're not professional necessarily. And so for them, that's the only way they invest their money. For other people, like Patty, like myself, I have a solo 401k, you know what I mean?
Right.
I do have a diverse portfolio. I wouldn't put everything in real estate even though I believe in real estate.
You're just trying to diversify outside of equity.
Right. I also have confidence that I have my finger on the pulse of real estate here. So sometimes when I don't even think I'm planning on selling or buying, I see an opportunity and I'll do it.
Gotcha.
It's like, wow, the market's insane right now. You know what would sell really well? That little condo I've been renting. And then chat with those clients like, hey guys, because like my first condo I kept as a rental after I left and bought the next place. And I had this cute couple in there, and they had a lease. So I couldn't kick them out. But I just said, hey guys, I was thinking of selling this place because the market's nuts.
How much do you want to
lease? And they actually were grateful because it turns out girlfriend had lost her job, was going to go to nursing school. They wanted to move to Inner Sunset so she could walk to school and save money and time and things.
Right.
And they begged to get off the lease. And so it actually, I felt so guilty. I paid for the moving van. That was my total expense, like $800 or something. And they were thrilled to leave, and I sold that place for crazy amounts of money considering what I bought for it. Because the values south of market are still below what I got 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
This month, September actually. So it's interesting, like if you are able to stay flexible and pay attention, just like you might do with the stock market. I don't play the stock market too much. Come on in.